For the players, the pop culturist PlayStation podcast is fueled by the Man Shake. I lost 30 kilos in 10 months using this meal replacement shake. If you want to support the show and max in my weight loss journey, or to even start your own, click the link in the description below. The Man Shake. Real blokes, real results.
For the players.
I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And this is For the Players, the pop culturist PlayStation podcast for 40 years of playing PlayStation, 8 plus years in that games media. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this PlayStation conversation.
This PlayStation conversation happens every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on podcast services, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you'd like to take part in future conversations with us, come and check out our socials. Facebook, Discord, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those links can be found in the description below.
If you want to join us as the conversation happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch us record this show live, where you can jump in the chat and become part of the show. If you want to support the show, you can. Tell your friends, tell your family about this PlayStation pod. If you are on podcast services, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a written review. If you are on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I endeavor to answer every single comment. And if you want to support us financially, you can. Patreon.com/thepopculturist, while our merchandise store, popculturist.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on, which I believe is on sale right now. It's like 35% off or something. Woo. So if you want to show, now's a good time.
So, we're late today. About 15 minutes late.
For those on Twitch, or those on YouTube.
For those on Twitch, for the audio podcast listeners and
notice.
those on YouTube, you will not notice. But I'm going to call myself out here. So basically, what happened was, I was very, very tired. So I'm like, I'm gonna check a sneaky nap at 2 o'clock. I'm gonna set my alarm for 3. Give me an hour to get here. We'll be sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this moron set it for 3 a.m.
Nice.
And I woke up at 10 to 4. I'm like, ooh. Oh, no.
I can tell because you do have a little bit of like...
So, like, as I was like doing my hair as I ran out the door, I had a toothbrush in my mouth and I was like, shh. And this is right. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be about 10 minutes late. And then I catch every single red light on the way here because that's how it works. If you're already running late, the world just fucks you real hard. Had to stop for a train. I'm just like... And then there's a highway between me and Ryan. And it's usually an 80k zone. But apparently... everyone wanted to just do 60 in both lanes.
Sounds fair.
So I was like stuck.
Is it rainy outside? I've been outside today.
It's not raining at all. People just shit.
Well, because that's what, it's common knowledge, right? Like the second that the weather gets a little bit garbage, everyone just drives like morons, like absolute morons. So, you know,
yeah, there is no excuse. It's just my own lateness has caused this to just.
Well, it's because you were
It's
pushing.
the ripple effect.
Yeah. It's because you were just pushing. Everyone was driving. Like everyone may have been driving the speed limit, but you were just like, come on.
No one was driving the speed limit. So, I apologize for those who are waiting live.
I look at the numbers and I can't confirm.
To the rest of you, like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just funny story.
Yeah.
I guess.
But it was a good nap though.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, actually.
Because
I feel refreshed.
I would wonder though, like with the intensity that you had to wake up, like did it just counteract?
Well, I casually just woke up and I'm like, I'll look at the time. I expected it to be like just shy of 3 because my alarm hadn't gone off, and then it was just shy of 4. I'm like, oh boy. Whoops.
That sucks. And like because your world is on that different. Your 12 hours different to everyone else. So like that's understandable that you would bugger up your alarm.
So yeah, it's my fault.
It's all right. Other than that, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I had a short week this week because I was supposed to get vaccinated on Monday.
Yeah.
It turns out I couldn't get vaccinated on Monday because the place that I was going only has the stuff that they will only give to over 60s now. So
Yeah, that's
like,
what I'm getting. Woohoo.
So they're like, sorry, come back in like a couple of weeks' time. We should have the Pfizer. I'm like, okay, cool. I rang my boss.
We've talked vaccination talk the start of the last like 4 episodes.
Rang my boss and I'm like, hey, so it turns out I'm not getting vaccinated. He's like, oh, okay, no worries. See you on Monday. Then I'm like, yeah, look, if you've already organised people to cover for me, I'm happy to just take those 2 days as annual leave.
I'll take the hit.
And he's like, no, it's all right. You know, we haven't swapped any shifts around. I'm like, oh, okay. Then he's like, he could hear the disappointment in my voice. He's like, you want those 2 days, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I kind of want those 2 days. He's like, got enough hours? I'm like, yeah, I got like 100 hours of leave. He's like, yeah, you can have those 2 days.
Yeah. It saves you and, have that fear of... Because I had such banked up leave when I left my previous job. They had to pay me out like $8,000, which was awesome. They got to suck it, but it was great for me.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, you can take those 2 days. And I'm like, cool, I'm taking those 2 days. So I had a really short week this week, and I'm still tired by the end of it. I was like exhausted. Like,
What did you... It was different? Or it's because the week's been thrown out?
It's because my sleeping pattern changed, and trying to get it back on has just been a nightmare. But other than that, it's been a pretty good week. What about you? How's your week been?
My week's been the same. It's I live that sweet old man life where every week is the same on repeat.
Yeah,
like it's just more of that's the work, and then it's being at home, and there's being at work and being at home. And the only thing that's throwing me off though, and this is completely unrelated to anything PlayStation, for some fucking reason,
like everything else we've spoken about.
Yeah, pretty much. Like AEW Dynamite. It's the one wrestling show that I watch now because the WWE are garbage right now, and I have no interest in watching them. They just fucking fired like 8 more people. Like, they're not going to have a show left by the end of this. Jesus Christ. They normally record... AEW Dynamite's normally on a Wednesday in the US, so it's Thursday for me.
Yep.
So I kind of plan... Like, I'm supposed to be streaming Thursday nights, but I just can't feel like streaming. I think I should get back to it. Because, like, anyone that does follow us on Twitch, like, I used to stream at least every Thursday. And I just stopped fucking caring. Just couldn't do it. Because it's just bleh. Yeah. And I knew that was coming across, so I was like, I'll just stop doing it. I don't want to give people a shitty time. So I will just be watching Dynamite on Thursday with the boys. But because for whatever, I think it's the NBA season or the hockey season in the US, they're like...
Isn't the playoffs on at the moment?
Yeah, so they're recording, they're doing their live show on Saturday their time. Or Friday their time. And I'm like, but that throws out my whole week. Like, my weekend evenings are for different things. And now I've got to watch Dynamite. But I want to watch it, but you're just fucking up my week. I live on a schedule. It's not a very intense schedule, but it's a schedule. And you're fucking with it, AEW. You're fucking with it. It's not a bad thing, though. I'll just watch it. I'll just replace something else with something. I don't care. But, like, my during the week schedule is fucking haywire right now.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I think that works pretty good. Painted some more minis, which was fun.
Nice.
One thing... I'm doing to talk to you about this, actually.
No, here we go.
No, it's nothing intense. So I'm
neck minute.
No, this isn't. No. So I've spent the better part of the last, what is it now? June. So probably since like February, I guess.
Okay.
I've really kind of latched on to the idea that I think I have ADHD.
Okay, yeah.
Have I talked about that one?
You've vaguely mentioned it to me.
Yeah, and like I've not doubled down on it, but like I've
doubled down on it.
I've spent I don't
think that's how it works.
I spent the last 4 months like trying to suss it out, and like I'm on that line of like I'm pretty fucking sure. Like it just a lot of stuff checks out, a lot of stuff makes sense, and it's just one of those things like because it's a conflict, right? A lot of stuff checks out, and it's like, well, I'm 32. Why does it matter? I'm like, because what if the last 32 years have been shit house, and my next 32 years could be awesome if I get this sorted out. So, like, originally, I'm cynically like, well, I'm 32, why does it fucking matter? But I could make things so much better if it is correct.
Yeah.
And I think it is. I'm pretty... So, because, one of the many things I've learned about ADHD is the irony is that this has been my hyperfocus for the last 6 fucking months. You're like, hey, do you have ADHD? I don't know. I'm really focused on the fact that I have ADHD. Motherfucker, that sounds like ADHD. So... Oh, fuck, I just derailed myself. Hang on. Let me get back to it. What was I talking about? ADHD and...
Hyperfocusing. 6 months. Gonna sort your life out. Last 32 years been shit.
I remember.
Next 32 years could be good.
Well, it's gone. Either way, brain's fucked.
Yeah.
So like, it's a lot of it makes sense. And that's right, because so there's multiple kinds of ADHD. Yeah. It's not just everyone presumes it's like a hyperactive kid in the corner that's just like fucking going at 100 miles per hour. Very much that is the case. However, since they've combined the diagnoses of ADD and ADHD together, it all kind of is weird. So you can have, so it's you're either inattentive, hyperactive, or a combination of the both. Now, I myself, I ain't got that hyperactivity part. No, fuck no. I'm very much the inattentive part. Like, I can't hold concentration on things. I focus on the wrong things. I make tons of just careless mistakes. My memory is garbage, as we just demonstrated. The sweet irony again. You know, there's all these little things, and like, you know, there's other things I have. Like, I fidget a lot. I have I constantly am bouncing my leg when I'm sitting down. Yeah. But I think that might be an anxiety thing. I'm connecting the two. Like, if I look at because I essentially ran through the DSM last night, and I looked at the 9 categories on each, and I scored very highly in the inattentive, but not so much. But I scored the couple of things scored really high, like the leg shaky, like the inability to shut the fuck up, as well as like feeling the need to just blurt shit out and like talk over people, which I do all the time. I'm positive I do it to you. But like, yeah, so those things didn't rank as high, but like they ranked really high comparatively with other things. Like, I'm willing to admit that those are anxiety things, which makes sense because I also have generalized anxiety disorder. So like, I look at that and I go, those line up with that for me. This other stuff, although can be symptoms of anxiety, I think the intensity of them alone is separate. And that's been really fucking with me, actually.
So your long story short seems to be like you are just a hot mess, right?
Oh man, I'm a trash.
You're a hot mess.
And I can just the problem is, so I need to go to a psych and get it sorted out, and that's fine. I've been to psychs before. However, because everyone's collectively fucked right now, I can't get an appointment for months. Like, I booked an appointment in late May, and it's not till August. Wow. Like, well, thankfully I didn't have a mental breakdown between now and then, which I kind of am, so that's really inconvenient. Like, I'll work it out. But there you go. That's my week. My week is essentially coming to a point of going, like, you know what? No, I'm pretty confident that it is. And then I talked to my wife about it. She goes, none of that. Because everyone has those symptoms. I'm like, fuck you for not supporting me.
How dare you not support me in my own diagnoses?
No, thankfully my wife, like, you've known my wife for 1,000 years. Like, you know, she's super logical. So she's like, well, let's look at it this way. I'm like, yeah, but I'm talking feelings here, mate. You're not helping me out.
Oh, jeez.
We'll work it out. Like, look, I said best case scenario, it is the case. And then maybe I get some pills because then it clears some brain fog, it lines some things up, and then I realize how better the world is. Or I go, it's not that, and I go, oh, well, then why is everything fucked? And then I have to have a whole other discussion. So it's exciting either way.
Sure. Exciting is the word I would totally use in that scenario.
I don't know. I want to know what. I want to know.
Yeah, of course.
I want to make sense of it all. And that's a big part of it, right? Yeah. You know? Yeah, that's the plan anyway. Cool. And look, it makes sense why I fucking love video games so much, because the sweet dopamine, the epinephrine, like the way the things, the reward system makes sense.
Now, calm down. You like farming games.
Oh, that's true. Speaking of farming games, let's get a section where we call it doesn't have a name. What we've been playing. Max, I'm going to let you gush first because you've been holding this in.
Yeah. So
for the better part of 2 weeks. So thanks to the team over at Bandai Namco Australia who provided us a review code for Scarlet Nexus. Max has been going ham on it. I remember like Max messaged me. He's like, "Hey, can we get a code for Nexus?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll look into it."
This was like 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, "Hey, you need to get me some Nexus action."
And I was like, "Look, I'll get into it. I'll send a code." And then I kind of forgot. And then, coincidentally, I got an email from the team, and they're like, "Hey, you want to play Nexus?" I'm like, "Oh my god, do you know how good timing this is?" So then the code came through, they got an email, and then the code came through like an hour later. Yeah. Like, no bullshit, no nothing, just bang, here you go. And that was like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and then so I was like, "Here you go, Max." You're like, "Oh my god, like, how did you make that happen?" I'm like,
it's like so much hard work, lots of greasing palms.
Yeah, there was like greasing palms. Maybe I had to sign so much shit. I had to like go into NDAs. It was like we're in that cone of silence from fucking Get Smart. I had to like. I
love that. I love that image.
Utter these correct keywords,
Get
and they're
smart.
like, "Here's your code." No, I just went. I should probably do something about that. Didn't do it. Then the world.
And then you got saved by the team over at Bandai Namco. They're like, "Hey man, so we know that Max really wants this, and we know that you've done fuck all about it. Would you like a code to be the good guy?"
like,
And then you were like, "Yes."
Yeah, they're like, "Look, we're professional. You are not. Would you like this?" I'm like, "Yes, I would. Thank you very much. I agree to the terms of this email."
So anyway,
what's the game?
for the better part of the last 2 weeks, I have been playing Scarlet Nexus, which is Bandai's new big action RPG. So the demo came out a couple of months ago. I played that. It was really awesome. You got to essentially play the first tutorial areas for each of the 2 characters that are available to play. So the first character being Yuito Sumeragi, and he's the male protagonist, and then the female protagonist was Kasane Randall, whose story Randall,
the guy had the most Japanese name I've ever heard. Randall.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's fine.
So I
I
played Kasane's story first. I clocked in at just over 20-ish hours for completion of that story. So I've got the other one to do still. So basically, you play as it's the same story, just shown from the different perspectives because they're part of the same core unit.
Like
type
Nia?
thing. Not quite. So your character is a part of the OSF, which is the Other Suppression Force. You're basically like this special military.
Okay.
And the enemies in this game are called Others.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Basically, they're these weird creatures that eat people's brains.
Because this is for those that may remember, this is the game that rocked up in a state of play like a year and a bit ago with all the weird flowery people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're the Others, and they basically eat people's brains, which is a big no in this.
That's a big no in general. I'm not a big fan.
So each of the 2 characters that you control have being a big RPG, you do get other party characters, but you don't personally control them. Everyone has psionic abilities. So the 2 main characters have psychokinesis. They can basically pick objects up and throw them at the enemies. It's their big thing in combat. Other people have like electrokinesis, pyrokinesis, teleportation, invisibility, all the fun stuff.
So my brain just went, oh yeah, brain yeets. You got brain eats and brain yeets. Like, there's your comparison. So fuck me.
So the combat in this game, it's very fast paced. It's a third person hack and slash for lack of a better term. So you'll have your basic attack. You have a ranged attack, which kind of puts distance between you and the enemy, and you fill up your power meter bar, which allows you to use your mind throwing capabilities because you can't just
brain yeet.
Thank
you.
From now, you can't
it's a very weeby game. You have to put it into my terms for me to understand it.
But the story basically shows how to avoid spoilers, because the story is very, very fascinating. Basically, to put it in layman's terms,
thank you.
You're just trying to get rid of these others. You're working in your military unit, getting bonds with your, securing your bonds with your teammates to increase your team level, to make yourselves all stronger, because you all share your abilities through these weird connections that they basically have these weird tubes that connect to each other, so you can borrow other people's mind powers. It's very bizarre, but it makes sense in the context of the story. I just don't want to explain how, because it's kind of spoilery. And yeah, you work together with your team and you do this. But the game's it looks absolutely fantastic. It does this weird thing where, especially in the cities, where just outside of the render distance, instead of just having like this nothingness, it looks like the city is sketched in pencil, and then as you walk through it, it renders in and becomes this bright, vibrant, fully animated city. And it looks amazing that it goes from this 2-dimensional sketch art to this fully realized 3D rendered area. It looks absolutely amazing. The soundtrack for the game is phenomenal. It's that high-paced, high-intensity, especially during the combat. But it's really hard to talk about the story too much without spoilers, so I really don't want to do that because it's a very fascinating story to kind of... It hits a lot of interesting themes.
Well, what are some of the themes that it
So
connects to?
obviously...
So obviously not going to tell them beat for beat, but like...
So there's the friendship between your unit, because each character has their own specific unit that they work within. So it's got all the gameplay elements of like similar to like a Persona game where each character has a bond level.
Oh, okay.
And the more that you bond with those characters... the more that you bond with those characters, the more passive abilities get unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
So at the start, the passive ability is you can use my power in combat. So you can use the pyrokinesis. So all your all your attacks do fire damage. And then at level 2, it might be that the effect lasts longer. At level 3, it's hey, when you stun an enemy, you can press a button input and I'll actually come and join the fight and blast them for you. Then at level 4, it's like, hey, sometimes when you take lethal damage, I'll come in and take the hit for you so you can survive.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's beneficial to level them up, and the way you do that is by giving gifts, which I personally never did because I'm very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But you do during each the way the story is told is in chapters, and between each chapter they have basically like a cooldown period where you hang out at your hideout with your team, and you can talk to them, and they have what's called bond episodes where you do these little side missions with your other characters, and you work on your bond. So it just
does sound very Persona.
It fleshes out their backstory and tells you like why they're invested in this world, why they're invested in your team, why they're doing the things they're doing during the main story.
So is it worth your time to do these little side things? Like, are these characters fleshed out enough that you want to learn about them more? And obviously you've mentioned about
they're obviously
the systematic reasons why it's beneficial, but like from a story delivery
perspective, it does add to the overall narrative. Like, it is important to know what they're there for and why they are doing what they're doing, because obviously they also do have a big impact on the overarching story. But there's also that gameplay reward of they become stronger, and because they become stronger, you become stronger.
Okay. All right, so right now you've hit what is
I've hit
the most consistent thing within anime is like the story of friendship.
Yeah.
Is this a story about like an unwilling hero or something as well? Because that's a very common weeb thing.
Not necessarily. So
unconventional hero, perhaps.
Like the two main characters are obviously the two main heroes, but they also have a different reason as to why they're there. So because I haven't played the other character's story yet, and although
you started it, but you've not.
I've started it, but I haven't finished it yet. And although it's hitting a lot of the same beats as the first character, just from their perspective, they do have a different reasoning than the other character to be there. And obviously they work together to solve their differences and then triumph over evil, because there is that overarching evil of the others and all the other stuff that goes on.
All right. So admittedly, like when I looked at the trailer for this, because the conversation was, do we both play it or do just you play it? And then I looked at the trailer and went, ooh, that is not a Betson game.
No.
So, and a lot of that is because stylistically, and like, even though it had the novelty of the plant people and whatnot, it still felt like it just looked like every other generic JRPG. Is that the case?
It kind of is. It has gameplay very similar to that of like Nier Automata and all that stuff. It's very much in that same wheelhouse of, especially combat-wise, being like third-person action. It's not turn-based, like most JRPGs, but it's very much a huge anime-style game. It's got that over-the-top artwork. It's not, how some anime can be with their dialogue kind of over the top, a bit too
exposition-y.
Oh no, this game's very exposition-y in the way that it delivers its story. So there's very few cutscenes in this game. There are some, they do exist, but they're few and far between. The way they tell their story and the way the characters interact with each other, they're basically like comic book panels.
Oh,
so they're like manga panels.
That's kind of cool.
So they'll be talking and you'll have the two panels of the characters' faces, and the faces themselves are animated, so they're making their facial expressions, their mouths are moving, but there's no nothing else is going
No
on.
VO?
No video. No VO. No. Oh yeah. It's all voice. It's all voice acted. And then during like the big story beats, it will be fully animated. They'll drop that. They'll drop the comic book style, and it'll be a fully animated. That's what I'm looking for.
Cutscene.
Cutscene. And it's a nice change of pace. It kind of denotes that difference of like, hey, this is actually really important. So we're gonna focus our resources, do this. Not to say that
So it shows off the set pieces.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Thank you.
So I had massive amount of fun playing this game. By the end, it does that thing in a lot of video games where it's like, hey, you know that boss that just like kicked your ass for half an hour? Well, now that you're in the next level, these are just normal enemies and you're gonna fight 5 of them at once. It's like, oh, cool. Thank you for that.
Rad.
I really appreciate that. I nearly died twice to the guy like 10 minutes ago, but now you can throw like 5 at me. So I was playing this on PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
It is available on PlayStation 4 as well. So it does have DualSense support. So it has that really nice rumble feel. In combat, each enemy has basically an armor bar as well as a health bar. And if you deplete the armor bar before the health bar, you get to activate a special ability. And for the life of me, it's just left my brain. But basically, you hit L2 and it gives you that tension as you pull it in. You basically rip the brain out of the enemy and you instantly kill it. Doesn't
Dope.
Unless it's a
So the others can't eat the brains, but you can remove the brains.
The others do eat brains, and you're removing their brains, so they
that
get
seems
wrecked.
a bit hypocritical, doesn't it?
So basically, there's like essentially these light bulbs on them, and you kind of just rip them off.
Okay, that's fair.
It's very exciting. Obviously, it doesn't work against bosses. Bosses will just take a giant chunk of health and they'll regenerate. But for every standard enemy, you can kind of rip them out. The R2 button is your psychokinesis button, your telekinesis button. So as you're picking up the objects, you get that slight tension. Then as you throw, it kind of releases and kicks back, which is quite nice. The rumble feature is very good. Because I play with headphones on and I play with my headphones, admittedly probably too loud. I didn't notice if there was any sound coming out of the speaker of the of the controller.
Normally, if you've got headphones working, it won't. It
took me
reroutes it because.
Well, it took me 2 weeks to realize that it doesn't reroute in Returnal, and you still get sound coming out of your controller. And I never ever knew. So yeah, it's nice to see a story that was compelling enough to pull me through, because I found it hard to put it down for the 2 weeks that I was playing it. I spent a lot of time going. Everyone was like, "Hey, you want to play this?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm busy," and I was just pushing through. So and it does that nice thing of like I said earlier, it does separate the story into its chapters, and then it gives you some downtime so you can flesh out each person's individual character stories, which is really well designed.
So one of the things, like, we have a little group chat, you and myself. What's it? Group chat? It's you and me. You and all the group. You made a comment in that chat with me. You said essentially the likes of Scarlet Nexus is a front runner for your game. So obviously take this with a grain of salt. I've only played essentially one half of this game. It is currently my number 1 game of the year contender. Damn.
Now, prior to this, It Takes Two, and It Takes Two is still a very special game because I played it with my wife to the finale. But this game is everything I've been looking for in an RPG for such a long time, and it's just doing things a little bit better than what, say, Nier Replicant did, which I played a couple of months ago, because Nier Replicant is it is a much older game with a newer, fresher paint. This is that new game designed in the here and now, as opposed to just getting that overlay facelift, for lack of a better term.
I feel ya.
Yeah. So overall, if you are interested in those types of action RPG games, this is a very easy recommend. Stylistically, it's fantastic. It's bright. It's vibrant. It's what's the word I'm looking for?
Which sounds like quite unique, especially with the plain people and the
Yeah,
sketch
because
backgrounds and
And like the combat isn't just. I know I refer to I use the term hack and slash. The combat is nuanced enough in that each enemy that you fight, you need to take it on in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So like some enemies essentially look like crabs, but to deal damage to them, you have to throw shit at them to break their shell, and then the shell physically falls off them, and you can see their weak little bodies, and then you run them and stab them a couple of times, and they get wrecked. And you know, there's enemies that will screw with the environment. They'll like basically put up these smoke screens so you can't see anything, and then one of your party members is like, "Hey, my power is clairvoyance. Use my power, and we can see everything in the area." You do that, and all the enemies light up. You're like, "Oh yeah, got you."
Yeah.
or like each of the characters yell out these little handy hints. Like it's like, "Hey, that enemy's replicating itself. Use my power, and I can show you which one's the real one, so you don't waste all your time hitting the fakies." So, I can do that. And then by the end of the game, the enemies that had no abilities were rocking like multiple abilities. So they threw like boss monsters at you that could replicate and turn invisible. It's like, cool. Thank you so much for that.
But hey, you do a thing. You do a thing.
Because you can't infinitely use your teammates' powers. They're all on cooldowns. So you got to pick your battles wisely, because they'll throw multiple enemies of different types at you. So there'll be one guy that will set you on fire, so you constantly take damage. But there'll be another guy who will douse you with oil, which will increase the fire damage, but then you can't dodge because you're all sludgy, so you can't run and you can't dodge. So you've got to pick what's the biggest threat in the room. Might not necessarily be the strongest monster. It might be that little weakling over in the corner that's just stopping you from dodging.
Dope.
So you've got to fight your battles in a very specific way, which I found intriguing. And then there's, with the use of your abilities, you can kind of use the environment to your advantage. So in one area, you're in like an old underground abandoned subway. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, there's these massive group of enemies. Instead of alerting them to your presence, why don't you just yeet that entire train at them and just kill them all at once? And it's like, okay. So you just yeet the train at them.
If I have to.
So there are ways that you can play smart, and you can kind of take them down before the enemies know what's coming to them. So it is it's much more nuanced than just a hack and slash, but it was the easiest way to convey the style. So yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, Scarlet Nexus is out now on the PS5 and the PS4, as we said at the start.
You'll probably hear way more next week when I've finished the second.
Yeah, as I said, we did receive a code.
Story.
Thank you to Bandai Namco Australia for that one. Really appreciate it. Max I was having a hard time. I say hard time because he's aroused, because he's very happy with the game.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. It's been really fun to play, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the differences in the story from the two perspectives.
Do the characters separate at any point? So
basically one person becomes team 1 and the other party becomes team 2. So there's this big chunk in the middle of the story before they reconvene at the end. So you get to see exactly what you missed out on. So yeah,
very nice.
Very.
So this week, the last week, you got to spend time with a game that is right up your alley. It's weeby JRPG nonsense.
It's great.
I too got to spend a game that's right up my alley. So, very similar. Excuse me. Sorry, very similar to Leisure Suit Larry. I was on one of those key websites that we have access to, and there was a game that caught my attention. It was called Farm for Your Life. I'm like, well, it's got farm in the title. Bing! and sure enough, the code came through. So big thank you to the development team and the publishing team for sending on down through to us. So Farm for Your Life is a very independent game. It's a little bit janky. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but the design of it is a farming game that is also a tower defense game.
Okay. Interesting genre.
Very much so.
Match.
So you start the game, you're on a farm, and you kind of learn the base systems and how it works. A massive storm comes in, wipes the living shit out of your farm, so you're left with nothing. You've got to rebuild. Additionally, zombies are in the surrounding forests, and they come at you at any given time. So what you are left to do is you are left to rebuild the farm, maybe get your grandfather back because he got taken off into the forest.
Of course, there's a farming game with a grandfather where you've taken over the.
Oh, there are some tropes, man.
Taken over the family farm.
Yeah, so he and a bunch of anyone else that was in this original town got pulled off into the forest. As of yet, I don't know whether they got to save them or not because they go in there and there's a lot of zombies that look like people that got pulled away. So can't verify whether that's the case. However. Yeah, so you start building up your farm, and then there's a bunch of different things that you can do as you start rebuilding up the area. An example being that there is what used to be an old church, being beaten down, and it becomes a restaurant.
Okay.
So you start working. So you have survivors from around the area come through to you. You feed them. They give you supplies, and then it allows you to grow and grow and grow. Yeah, so I've put... Actually, I have no idea how long I put into it. Actually, I have no idea. But yeah, so look, I love the simple design of it because it's a farm game that's tower defense. The tower defense is the zombie part because the zombies will just approach you pretty, pretty logically, right? They just come kind of me. So you can build up a series of fences, build up traps and stuff to try to catch them before they come and get to your crops. You can use your crops as a defensive weapon. You start yeeting corn at people, and the zombies take a hit and they get out of there, which is fun. But like it hits. For me, as a big farming game fan, it hits a lot of the beats that I love, which is that time management sort of setup.
Okay.
As in, do I focus on because like the plants are going to grow regardless. People are going to come to the restaurant regardless. I have to manage my time between the two. And of course, you can get villages and stuff that help you and support you. And but in order to get them to a point where you can get them in their own little tent, so they'll come and live in the area, you've got to do that hard yards, which is great. And everything's relatively simple. Like it is a simpler farming game compared to say your likes of Farming Simulator, which is like intense. This does take a lot of pulls from like early Harvest Moons and stuff, where it's just as simple as you plant it, you water it, and they got fertilizer. You fertilize it, and then after a little bit of time, whatever. Yeah, it's pretty easy. But the complications come of just managing it all at once. One thing this game does, which I'm normally I'm not really a big fan of in general when it comes to farming sims, is there's no sleep.
Okay.
There's a day-night cycle, but there's no sleep. So one thing I didn't like about Farming Simulator is because you can't go to bed. So like you spend a lot of time just waiting for things.
Yeah.
But in what the design of it in this game is that, okay, so all the main farming things happen during the day. During the night, when there's no one coming to your restaurant or plants will kind of just chill out, you will go into the forest and forage. This is where you get your wood and your rocks and other building things you need to build.
So that's not necessarily when the zombies strike.
The zombies they'll come in the day, they'll come in the night. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Like they'll just one or two will just wander out. Like where I'm at right now, anyway. A couple will just start wandering out. Okay. And I imagine that as we get bigger and people come involved, like the frequency that they arrive will increase. But yeah, so you go off into that and you start wandering in the forest. Now there is no health bar. You're not going to die from these zombies. However, if you're foraging in the thing and you've got like 60 things of wood and 30 things of rock, there's constant zombies just shambling around at you. And once they hit you, you just get rattled and drop half your shit. And you can't pick it up; it just disappears. Okay. So you have to kind of like dodge them and and then dodge them. So in when you're foraging it, that just becomes a wave dodge. Like it's not. Yeah. There's no tower defense. You don't have a sword. You have weapons, but you can't do anything. So like even once if the zombies were to get onto your main farming area, the only resolution is to yeet things at them. Like you can't hit them with your shovel. You can't hit them with your axe. They will just keep wandering until something takes them out.
Okay.
So it's relatively low combat in that space, very similar to like what's one thing of like My Time at Porsche, which doesn't have any combat at all.
Yeah.
But it does have like mild combat, but not in like a sword and shield Stardew Valley, go into the mines and defend against monsters sort of setup. So that's fun. So that managing stuff is cool. Look, the game is, as I said, incredibly independent. So it looks pretty jank. Like it's got that it's built in Unity, as in with a big splash at the start, and there's a lot of jagged surfaces and very like relatively low poly designed
So is it a
characters.
3D game or is it
2.5D?
Okay.
Yeah, so 2.5D, and with that comes everything works on the 8-plane axis.
Yeah.
So this is where some of the jank, some of the hiccups of it being a smaller game are. The working on that 8-plane direction thing is really cool, but it's not as if it's an entire grid system. Like, it's free moving, but only on 8 panels. So it's really hard to line up things to dig a hole or to water.
Yeah.
Like I spend a little bit of time just fuck-assing around, just trying to get it to line up.
So it's kind of grid-based, but you don't get to see the grid, and if you're not on it, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and like the grid-based system works also with the tools that you have, and there's also an inconsistency here, which really fucks me off. Once you know about it, you can suss it out, but it's also still inconvenient. The shovel, right? The shovel, you dig the plot that is right underneath you.
Yep.
Makes sense, but also not.
Yeah.
Watering can, the plot that's in front of you.
That makes sense.
Shouldn't the shovel be the same?
Yes, I agree.
So like when you're swapping between between tools and the rules keep changing on you, because same as plants, right? Like planting, and like it's the one that's in front of you. Like, I know it's a small thing. Either make them all the one below you or all the one in front of you.
Yeah.
Because the axe works that same way. The hammer works the same way. But that's because you have to hit the thing that's in front of you. So why not just map it all the same? Mm-hmm. But then again, unlike Stardew Valley, which has the little square in front of you that lets you know which one you're working on, this tells you nothing.
No.
So there's no clear indicator of where it is. So the amount of times that I dig a hole and then I move forward, but I didn't move forward enough because it's not 1, 2, 3 grid. Like you have freedom distance within that grid, and then you move forward, and then you're just digging the same plot you just did, and then you essentially untill the soil.
Yeah.
I'm like, the fuck is this? So that's annoying. There are times where I've hit quite a number of bugs, which makes sense because once again, it's a small game. So I've had this game for like just under a week, I guess. Yeah, about a week. So a couple of patches have come through since I've played it, so because it launched as of the 24th. Yes, 24th. So I'm sure it's going to get worked on the best that they can. It's a relatively small team. So a lot of these things I'm willing to forgive some of these things, but also not really. Like, this is kind of frustrating. So in the restaurant, you have a stove, and you have a stove which makes food based on the food that you have, whether it be, initially it's the idea of like baked potatoes and corn, and then as you progress with more food, like there's mixed salads and whatever, as you create more things like pumpkins and whatnot. But there is also a juicer, because there's an apple tree on your farm and the toy's producing apples. You can make apple juice for people. So you do have plates and cups and plates that work. So when you serve it up on the plate, take the plate to the table, they eat it, they leave the plate there, they scoot. Pick up the plate, you wash it, whatever. I have such a problem with the glasses. I feel like it's like only like a 30% chance that the game will allow me to pick up the glass. So like there are times where a table will have 3 glasses on it, and you have a finite number of glasses, might I add, and you have to buy more through the little vendor. And I just can't get to them. Like, they're just stuck on the table, and like no matter what I press, I can never get them back. So like, and then because the glasses only appear semi-infrequently in terms of the store itself, or if someone comes in to buy the food, they may have a glass on them, and you can be like, "Hey, give me that glass as well, and I'll give you an extra bit of something in the deal." So when they get lost on the table, it's like, "Fuck me." That's irritating. The other thing about this game as well, and this is very common with most farming games, it doesn't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a bug problem, but this is something that doesn't tell what to do. So I've actually had to remove the save that I was playing and start again, because I essentially got to a point where I'm like, where am I doing? Where am I going? And so I was like, oh, hang on, I'll just start it again. Because at the time, like, the game had released, and then I was like, I'm going to watch another video, or some of the Let's Play. And the Let's Play themselves, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they just because they're playing on PC, and the games on PC has been out for a while. So there's enough information there for me to pick up on it. And I think this game would work better with a mouse and keyboard. So the transition to console is cool, but there seems to need to be a bit more work in that blend.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are just things like, how do I get to the forest? Like, I didn't know I had to go to the forest, because at no point did any of the characters say, go to the forest and forage. Like, not that I need the game to be that black and white with me, but at least some exposition is cool. Like, you know, your game, which gave you nothing, instead gave you everything. When this game gives me kind of nothing.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to learn on the go, which is fine because I do love that discovery. I don't want like everything to be hand fed to me, but at least some minor push, because there's a little like cave shape in the forest. Like, hey, you can walk through there. I didn't know that until I went to it.
Yeah.
You know. Very minor things. But in terms of other bugs as well, there are times with the characters running and I try to swap tools while the character's running, the character will just keep running. Like, okay. So there are times when very similar to when you're trying to plot the land or whatever, you try to talk to an NPC because you're not standing exactly where the game wants you to, it'll move you around and it gets fucking confused about it. You know, it's just, they are little issues that comes from a relatively small game. Yeah. And I do think that they can be improved. I do think a lot of these problems may not be fixed. However, I am not a games developer. Never have been, never claimed to be. So this could be incredibly complicated for a small team.
Yeah.
I don't know. So like, I'm not going to like poo-poo the game, because the more that I played it, the more willing I was to forego some of these things, because the initial art style is jank. Everything's kind of you know, early PS1 feeling to it. Right?
Okay.
I'm being a bit
I get
a bit hyperbolic, but like everything's a bit sharp and pointy. Things are there's not a lot of shadow texture. It's really kind of simple. But the more I played it, the more I found myself being forgiving for the graphical design. There are times where, you know, some of the controls the controls are pretty consistent though. Like they tend to bum me out, but like I was willing to forgive the look and the appearance and even the sound, and just kind of, you know, it became a little charming as I played it more. But they're just some of those base mechanical systems that were a problem. I know farming games aren't your thing at all, but do you have any questions?
No, the whole time I just had in my mind Plants vs. Zombies with like this weird restaurant simulator on the side of it.
Not quite, I'm afraid. That sounds cool, but like, like it is.
So the benefit of doing the restaurant stuff is you get currency to buy more for the restaurant.
Yeah, so it's not
because what's the overall goal of the game?
I don't know.
There is none.
I think it just like most farming games, you just keep going until you stop. Like, you know, if you look at Harvest Moon, if you look at Story of Seasons, if you look at Stardew Valley, it's all like, we'll come back to you in 3 years.
Yeah, but it's this is how much money is owed on the farm. We'll come back in 3 years, and if you don't have our money,
yeah, I guess so. But like,
you'll hit a hard screen.
Yeah. So with here, as of yet, there's not that.
Okay.
So the people that come into like there's a gentleman that stands near your restaurant who is essentially your builder. He goes, hey, you have this, you have that. I can build you a sprinkler. I can build you a gate. I can build you a tent. You know, more tables for your restaurant, whatever. Which is cool. So the people that come in, there's no direct currency. It's not dollars. It is a goods and services sort of approach. Yep. Like, hey, can I have a baked potato and an apple juice, and I'll give you 3 bits of scrap and potato seeds. Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And then, so as you grab those things, you then collectively build them. However, one thing that kind of threw me as well is because I got to a point where I couldn't make the juicer because I didn't have enough parts to build the juicer initially. And every customer that was coming in was asking for something in juice. I'm like, but I can't meet that requirement. So I canceled the order. And then
they'd go home, tell their friends, and you just get no one in your
restaurant. Because no one was coming back. It's almost like the game registered that, all right, you have enough for at least to want this. So I'm going, but I don't have enough of the parts. I can't buy the juicer. So if I accept your order, it'll just time out or fucking take years, and they'll never leave. Because like I have had that where I didn't have the juicer and they just sat there and waited at the table. I'm like, here's your corn. It's like, cold stared me, and then the food went off in front of them. Like, little green smoke come off it. I'm like, I don't have your juice.
I don't have good juice.
But what I've found is, like, when I accepted one of the orders by accident, they gave me.
So they pay first.
They pay first, so they gave me the parts, and I went, oh, and I built juicer. Like right then and there, I'm like, well, that would have been handy.
Yeah.
Or at least like maybe not have such a hard point because like there was literally a time where everyone wanted corn, and then everyone just wanted potatoes, and then I was like, sweet, well I can do corn. Oh, I have enough money now to build some potatoes. Cool. And then they're like, cool. So they're asking for both, and they're like, no one juice now. I'm like, but I don't have juice. Not this once again. Even if someone just came through being like, hey, you have to go through 3 more potato waters in order to get enough scrap. Like, all right, cool. But there was just a hard line. And until I accidentally accepted the order, I wouldn't have got the things I needed. Because I went through like 15 people. Like every prick wants juice. And I can't give you juice. I'm so sorry.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so where does this game go? I don't know. Like I said, I find it charming enough for me to keep playing. It's because it's not demanding as much. I was remote playing to bed the other day. Just playing on I connected because now the iPhone supports DualSense support. I was like, beep. That was mad. And it's just a bit of fun to play at a distance, which is cool. But I'm sure right now, I don't know how much it is on the store. I haven't had a look because I own it. The price hasn't come up for me. That's going to be the big part. Yeah, for me. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I received a review code. However, if this game's over $25, I'd be like, probably not. Once again, just because it's not quite there. Yeah. It could get there, but it's not quite there yet. Anyway, farming games are good fun. Other than that, I jumped back into Elder Scrolls Online for some reason. Okay. I was I had it on my computer. And
mad change of pace.
Yeah, my brain was like, you have Elder Scrolls Online. I'm like, I do! So you should play it. I'm like, I will. I'm like, 70 gigs worth of updates. I'm like, whoa, get fucked. No, so I did. I let it download, and then I came back, and I went in that game is so good, man.
I don't know.
It's just because it hooked me in really quick. I was like, oh yeah, this is the old once again, and I say that knowing full well that I'm just going to forget the game exists again because that's how my brain works as I've come to learn. But at least for the little bit of time that I went back to it, yeah, because I was waiting for Story of Seasons, not Story. I was waiting for Sea of Thieves to update. It's I'll go over here then.
The other game I've been playing this week was Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance. So
admittedly, I saw the trailer for this a week ago or whatever. We talked about it last week. I saw the trailer with Jermaine Clement, and I'm like, this looks dope. The trailer's doing the good sell.
Yeah.
So we reached out to the local PR team here, which is Coach Media, and I said, hey, any chance we can get some review action for PS5? And then, yeah, sure, no worries. We'll add you to the list, and you'll get something close to the release date. Nothing yet. Nothing has come through yet, which I think, by all accounts, may have been a blessing.
Yeah, so being a co-op game, I was instantly sold because I'm a sucker for multiplayer co-op games. And my mate, one of my mates that I play regularly with, is like, hey, it's on Games Pass. I've pre-installed it. Do you want to play? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So
I do have Games Pass.
I jumped on PC, pre-installed it, and we played it launch night. Oh boy, is that game rough. Now, I don't have the greatest computer in the world, but it ran this fine. The problem is I don't think the game ran very well. This game feels like it was designed for a controller, and playing on mouse and keyboard was horrible. Yeah. Now, I should have just plugged in a controller. Might have solved a lot of the issues. That would have fixed it. Might have solved a lot of the issues that we're having. But, so it has... so being a Dungeons and Dragons game, it doesn't give you character creation. It's, here are 4 predetermined characters. You get to pick one of them, and then we go. Mm-hmm. All right, no worries. The first hurdle was, because we don't play... This is on us, not on the game or the systems. It's, how the hell do we open the overlay to invite each other? Because
apparently matchmaking's hot trash on PC.
Yeah, well, we weren't matchmaking. We were literally just
No, but as in you have to go through Steam or whatever.
Yeah, so we were playing through Games Pass, so we're trying to open the Xbox dashboard on a PC. I have no idea what the hotkey is for that. So I had to alt-tab out of the game, which crashed it. It crashed it so hard I had to reset my whole computer. And I had to Google how to open the shit. Turns out it's Windows G. It's very easy. I don't know how I didn't know that. Get back in. hit Windows G, and
Gotcha.
my friend's offline. I'm like, dude, you're offline. He's like, I'm not offline. I'm playing it. And I'm like, I'm on too. Can you invite me? He's like, no, you're offline. I'm like, well, all right, cool. It's a good start. He sends me a chat message through it. The chat pops up. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see you, but you're still offline. I can't invite you. He's like, you're still offline. I can't invite you. I'm like, okay. So we both start playing the game separately. And then all of a sudden, we could join each other. It just, like, by magic, basically. It's like, hey, you guys are both playing. Do you want to play online? So we joined. It was relatively simple after this whole kerfuffle. Started playing the first level. And it's weird. It's an action hack and slash. But if you're not locked on to anything, it doesn't have like an auto targeting thing.
And apparently, if you auto lock it, fucking hard cams them behind you.
Yes, if you auto lock it, hard cams behind you, so you can't see anything else.
You lose all your peripheral.
It also doesn't instantly change to the next dude once you've killed that guy, so it stays hard locked to nothing. And you've got to unlock on and relock on to fix your camera for it to refocus back on the next player. Very bizarre, which is why I think it, and because we were using mouse and keyboard because we're playing on PC, the controls were very janky, and I think it was very much designed with a controller in mind. I think it would have been a lot easier just using a controller, but the combat was slow and sluggish. As part of your combo, you have a light and a heavy attack, and once you light attack something enough, there will be a prompt to heavy attack it to stun it. At least in my experience, because I was playing the Hunter, so I was basically a dark elf with dual daggers, which was fun. It was really cool. And after I did my essentially flurry of blows, there would be a little icon saying right click now and you can stun. The problem is if you don't right click it before another basic attack goes through, you lose that prompt. And because it's a masher, I'm just going and I miss my prompt. And then I die because I didn't stun the dude and he just whacks you and you just go flying. It didn't look great either. The environment was very... I mean, we were playing... The first level, you're going through this cave system. It was very dark and kind of lacking of detail. It was very, very bland, but that could just be the setting that we're in at the time. And it doesn't... There's a lot of things that it doesn't explain to you. So in the first level, there's these ice spikes on the ground, which will kill you if you stand on them. Like your health will just drain. What it doesn't tell you is the flaming sword next to it will give you a buff called Warmth, which will allow you to walk over these spikes of death without dying. And there was times where we couldn't see the sword, so we just ran across the ice. And I got to a point where it's like, climb the ladder. I'm like, okay, so you push interact to climb the ladder. And as I was climbing the ladder, because there were spikes under the ladder, it kept killing me while I was climbing the ladder. So by the time I got to the top of the ladder, my character just fell over and died. Awesome. My teammate runs up there, tries to revive me, couldn't revive me. It respawns me all the way back at the start of the level after we had passed like 3 campfires. So when you hit a campfire, you can either short rest, which will give you your potions back, or you can risk it and be like, I want better rewards. And it'll up the loot multiplier.
And you can't find the potions in the world.
No, you don't.
Dumb.
Yeah. Also, there's things that destroy your stamina bar, which are used for attacks. And you can't get I somehow got my stamina back. I don't know how I did it. I don't know what I did to do it, because I definitely didn't pick anything up or get a potion or anything. But generally, the only way to restore your stamina is to also take a short rest at these predetermined locations. But we want loot. It's a looter. So you want the best loot you can possibly get. So you're like, oh, I'm just going to risk it for the biscuit. I've still got 2 potions. I'm sweet. And then you get stomped by like random dudes or like random explosions. So in the environment, when there's an explosion happening, it does give you that big red circle of, hey, you're going to get hit. Sometimes the explosion happens before the red thing disappears and you don't have enough time to move. Sometimes the red thing doesn't appear at all and you just blow up and you're like, what the hell hit me? There's nothing around me. Awesome. there's other areas where it's like you need to pull this lever to open the door, and the lever's there. So you go up, you interact with the lever to open the door. It's like there's something missing, and the lever disappears out of the spot. It's like the handle just disappears, and you're like, okay, all right. And then you go find it somewhere else, and then you come back and you interact with the thing again, and it magically reappears and then works. It's like, well, you were there to begin with. Why do you not show yourself as not there if I have to find you in the first place? And there was just some weird design issues. And then, so we ended up finishing the first mission. We got our loot. You get back to the main hub, and that's where you can level up and, you know, put your stat points in, sell the gear that you got, upgrade your gear. And then when you pick to do the next level, it's like, hey, this is the recommended combat power. This is what your team's combat power stands at now. I'm like, okay, well, let's bump it up, because the more you bump it up, the better loot you get. So we had a combat power of 1300, and we jacked it up to level 3, which was 1350 power, recommended power level. So 50 difference. We're like, oh, it'll be difficult
when you're working in the thousands.
When you're working in the thousands, 50's nothing. Turns out 50's everything, because everything one-shot us. Then we got to the very last boss after each getting... because you don't get to get your loot until you escape the level. So I had a few legendary gear drops.
Like Dark Zone style.
Yeah, like Dark Zone style. We got to the end boss. The game crashed. And we haven't gone back since.
Wow.
It was stuck in like a perpetual loading screen. Where the loading bar filled, but then didn't stop loading. And it just kept going.
Wait, as in keep going past?
Yeah, mine passed the threshold of the loading bar and then just crashed. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I stopped playing.
God damn.
We both looked and had the discussion of maybe this would work better on console. And we looked at the price and went, maybe not. So I think it's a 60-ish.
It's literally $59.95.
Yeah.
If you guys want a beautifully in-depth breakdown of this, go check out the YouTube channel Skill Up, Australian content creator who is so much better than us. I
saw his tweet before going in saying it was the worst game he's played this year.
Yeah, and he very clearly articulates why it's not hyperbolic. It's legit. It's a great video. So thankfully we're not playing that. We don't have to thank anyone for codes because we didn't play it. Like, there were some coming, but they never arrived. So, bingo for us, I guess. Anyways, before we get into the news, I know we've gone super long today already. Let's do our Get Less Fat update. For those that don't know, back in 2020, and now I guess, I've lost over 35 kilos using a product called the Man Shake. That's almost on my titty today too. It's a meal replacement shake that I am an ambassador for, and in turn helps power for the players. So I did my journey last year, still going. Max started his journey this year. Max, how's it going this week?
So this week I balanced out. I haven't lost anything, but haven't gained anything, which is nice. I've realized that I should have got onto the birthday cake bags way earlier than I did because.
Did you order some?
I tried.
They're out.
I don't think they were out. I think it just had an issue with putting it in my cart.
Oh.
So I'll have to try again, but it's real good.
That's what I was just drinking before. I was drinking the birthday cake because it's good shit.
It's real good.
Because I've still got a couple bags left, but like I want more.
Yeah.
I need to order more.
So yeah, I've been pretty flat this week. But that's because of weird, awkward sleeping schedules, way too much caffeine, and a few other factors.
Yeah. So, I talked about as I did the whole muscle chef meals thingy, and I ended up dropping down to about 107, which is the nice lowest I've ever been at, which pushed me about 35 kilos. Lost. So I then since transitioned back to regular meals, for the evening, as well as the shakes for breakfast and lunch, and I have spiked up a little bit, which makes sense because when I was using very heavily portion controlled meals, I have bounced back just a smidge. I'm just about 109, just within 2 kilos, which is reasonable. But what I'm happy is I'm not, even though I am battling this idea of, because I originally started all this at like 111, 112, whatever. I'm like, well, it's fucking 3 kilos. Like, yeah, 3 kills is a lot, but it's also not. Like, in the grand scheme of everything I've lost,
Yeah.
like, it's fucking nothing. And the fact that it's just fluxing is shitting me off. Like, I spent a whole month being hungry, and this is what I got out of that? This is fucked.
Yeah.
And then to see it go back up, I'm like, well, then why did I do any of this? Why do I eat this? Why I should probably just live off those meals for the rest of my days. Because what if I do those meals continuously and I get to my 100 kilos, which is my ideal, or at least I want to at least hit whether I stay there or not, I don't care. But then, like, what's when if I do all that and I put in the hard work and then it goes nah and just bumps me back anyway. Bodies are dumb. That's what I've been battling this week anyway. All right, but yeah, so if you would like to, join us on our weight loss, if you want to support us on our weight loss journey or maybe even start your own, you can by going to the link in the description. It is bit.ly, bit.ly, FTP Manshake. Go down there, just by clicking the link, you support the show. You don't even have to buy anything. Just give it a try. Click on the link and find out. Anyways. Now it's the section we call Informer Blades, where we tell you about what happened this week in PlayStation. Now, Max, you want me to go first?
Yeah, I want you to go first, because I structured this incorrectly.
Oh, fuck me. Okay, cool. Insomniac are hiring, Max. Finally, we can leave this hellhole that is the back room of my house and work for Insomniac. Right on the back of the release of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, it seems like there is no slowing down for the studio. Taking to Twitter, Insomniac Games posted, quote, Insomniac is hiring. We have 5 job openings for a multiplayer project. Come join us and be part of the hashtag PlayStation Studios family as we work on exciting things, end quote. The roles that they are hiring for are creative director, systems designer, multiplayer, story lead, art director, and VFX artist. So these are like the big fucking roles, whatever this becomes. So with Insomniac's recent releases being single player only, can we see a return of their previous IPs like Fuse or maybe even Resistance? Or will Marvel Spider-Man 2 be a co-op game, bit of Peter Parker, Miles Morales, double spoods going on? You're gonna go work over at Insomniac?
Oh yeah, I'd love to. I don't think I'd fit any of those.
I have none of those skills.
None of those.
No one.
I mean, I'll just hang out there if you'll take me. I'll just hang out. It'll be interesting because obviously with Resistance, they worked on Resistance with Bend and was it Nihilistic?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's about right.
So that it'll be interesting to see where they go. Obviously, we know. Well, we don't know for sure, but
so I thought I had it on the shelf.
We can assume that Marvel Spider-Man 2 is happening.
100% happening. But the difference is being here is we are looking at a complete lead team.
Yes.
So that leads me to believe it's not Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree.
Because a lot of those positions from Spider-Man will be rolling over, or at least from Miles Morales will be rolling over into what becomes Spider-Man 2. And we've not heard any words of people of this caliber leaving Insomniac, right? So to me, this means that they are making a brand new project. So I'd be ideally it'd be Resistance because I know so many people are super hard for that game.
Or are we going to go back to because wasn't there a Ratchet and Clank arena where multiplayer? Thing?
Yeah.
It's more likely. It's more likely to be a new IP than an old one.
I agree.
So, but it's cool.
I'm in.
Insomniac have just hit all their games out of the park recently. So,
well, that's the thing. As of right now, we look at what's been happening on the PS5, and Insomniac have
it's just Insomniac.
Insomniac have given us no reason to question their ability.
Yeah. They're really making themselves worth the
insufficient amount of money. Now they've seen what everyone else is worth. They're like, well, we're going to put the hard yards in, and you need to pay us more.
Yeah,
that's fair. All right, now I know why you made a switch because this is you.
I titled this best looking open world game ever. So Square Enix has large ambitions for its upcoming PlayStation 5 console exclusive action role-playing game Forspoken. Speaking in an interview about AMD's Fidelity FX super resolution technology, Luminous Production studio boss Takeshi Aramaki explained that the developers' goal is to, quote, to achieve the highest quality visuals ever seen in an open world game. So Fidelity Super Resolution utilizes machine learning to reconstruct lower resolution images and output them with more clarity, which means that in essence games can achieve 4K without demanding the computational power required to output the resolution natively. So it gives more headroom for developers to create bigger and denser worlds while still ensuring a good image quality that will run at 60 frames per second. Quote, I believe AMD's GPU open philosophy is raising the entire gaming industry's technical standards, which turn to benefit all players. Aramaki added, quote, we can't wait for players to get their hands on Forspoken and experience the next-gen graphics that were made possible by FSR.
This sounds promising, mostly because obviously the PS5 and even the Xbox Series X does work on an AMD hardware. So I think they have one of those APUs.
Yeah,
was the idea. So that's awesome because that means they should be able to take advantage of this. And one of the biggest hurdles that comes is as we start increasing the fidelity with it, 4Ks and whatever, having to be able to create assets of that size is incredibly demanding on storage and on processing. So if there's a way that they can, deliver slightly lesser.
That's why in every game that you've played recently, do you want 4K at 30, or do you want a fluctuating resolution, but you'll get your 60 frames? Which is it's one or the other.
Do you think this is sort of something that like on Insomniac have been working with when it comes to the ability to have
ray tracing
at 60 and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. It makes sense because as they spoke about in the interview, it is very taxing computationally to pull that off. So if they can make it easier by using machine learning to kind of just fudge those numbers a bit, it'll be like they said, it's great for developers because it allows them to reach higher than what they would normally, and then it benefits the consumer at the end of the day because they're getting a better quality game that not only looks better but also runs better. It doesn't have to make that compromise of it can look fantastic or it can run fantastic, but it can't do both.
Yeah, and because it will still be outputting in a quote unquote native resolution of 4K. It's just the assets themselves are it's the back end stuff. I don't think it's going to be a massive detriment to a branding, marketing, or even it's not really 4K. Well, it's well, shut the fuck up. It's releasing at 4K. It's fine. Don't matter. I think we'll get there. It's fine. Next up, Max, EA Play. So EA Play Live is set to kick off on the July 23rd at 3 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you're up in the middle of the night for some fucking crazy much for EA things, go ahead. They have not quite specified what time the quote main event will kick off, but we're likely to see more Battlefield 2042 as it's their big one coming into the back end of the year, as well as their upcoming sport titles like Maddens and your FIFAs and hockey maybe. I don't really give a shit about hockey anymore. But at least Madden and FIFA. And I think FIFA, we're due for a new FIFA at the back end of this year. So there's that. The big rumored reveal, however, is an old IP. They've been talking about this big a remaster getting the love. People have put two and two together and they're pretty confident that it's Dead Space. And of course, the event is hosted by Austin Creed, aka Xavier Woods, from the WWE, member of the New Day. I think he's a host of G4 now too, as well.
Pretty much like we just said. We'll see the sports games. We'll see what they're working on. The rumor is it's not a remaster. It's more of a reimagining of the Dead Space IP. So that'll be interesting. Dead Space has a huge following. I'm sure all those fans are chomping at the bit to get some more information. It'll be cool.
I refuse to believe it's Dead Space until I see it. Mostly because I mean, they mentioned that there was a remaster or a remake coming. Everyone's like, it's Dead Space. I'm like, what is there to say that it's Dead Space? What has EA done to prove that they would be willing to do so? Nothing. So no, I do not believe that it is Dead Space. I am very, very happy to be proven wrong. I don't know, something dumb. They're like, oh, Command & Conquer's back. What? It's on mobiles. The fuck? Or like, hey, we're making Skate 4. Really? When? I don't know. We just thought about it. Oh. That is what we're dealing with.
Well, Ryan, Ghost of Tsushima. Sony has recently updated the retail box for Ghost of Tsushima, generating speculation that the title could be heading to PC. The only on PlayStation has been removed from its box. This was previously removed from Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone, both now with PC ports. Given that Sony is more open to moving some of its titles over to the PC, it could be plausible that Jin is making that journey to the other platform. The other theory is that Ghost may be getting a PlayStation 5 version, as the tagline only on PlayStation is no longer present on games like Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales and Sackboy A Big Adventure, both cross-generation titles. The other rumor surrounding Ghost of Tsushima is that it's getting a completely standalone expansion titled Ghost of Ikishima. It will supposedly take place in the Japanese islands of Iki, which are south of Tsushima, just off the coast of mainland Japan. It is rumored to be showcased at Sony's next showcase, whenever that happens. The rumor itself is feasible, looking at Sucker Punch's history, both Infamous 2 with Festival of Blood and Infamous Second Son getting First Light, both large-scale expansions, both also standalone titles. So it fits, if that's the case.
Yeah, look, the only on PlayStation thing makes sense. It's going to PC. No worry, like that's what the future holds. At the time, it wasn't lying. So, as we've discussed before, we are totally down with things like, you know, the exclusives making their way over onto the PC. Yeah. We have no beef about it at all. And look, if anything, a lot of the big old weebs like yourself that love and get mad hard-ons for fucking katanas tend to hang out on PC. So, they too will get to have their you know, weeb boners ready to rock and roll. It does make me think, oh, maybe I should go back to Ghost of Tsushima, but like, I'm not going.
I still haven't finished the main.
Yeah, you got fucked us. You kept fuck-assing around in the
multiplayer for that game was absolutely superb.
Yeah,
I could not get pulled into the story of the solo campaign. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
like it's exactly the same gameplay. Maybe I'm a sucker for co-op gameplay.
You are.
I really
thought the weebiness would like win you over, but not so much. Look, the idea of another standalone DLC, nothing wrong with that, because obviously they've demonstrated, the Sucker Punch have demonstrated that with the multiplayer, shit's really good.
And like other Sony titles have done it with Lost Legacy.
Yeah, and First Light, like, from Infamous as well, so there's already history with Sucker Punch. They were one of the first people to really do it for PlayStation, so that would, you know, why the fuck not?
It's not out of the realm, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I love this title.
Last week, we talked about the whole Blue Box Games fiasco.
Read my title, you bastard.
So now it's time for the man, the myth, the video game. Abandon is once again in the news cycle. Earlier this week, Hasan Karahman posted a short video clip of himself to prove that he isn't Hideo Kojima and is in fact a real person, says the actor. Sorry. Quote, he says, "Hello everyone, this is Hasan Karahman. I just wanted to do a really quick video to show myself. I am a real person. I'm not really associated with Hideo Kojima. I am not an actor, and I am not working on Silent Hill. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys my face and that I'm real, and hopefully we'll do a Q&A soon. We just have to figure out when that will be, and we will talk more." End quote. Following this, the Abandoned trailer app that was set to launch this week has been delayed again, this time until August. The cause of the delay last minute claims to be bugs and localization issues. Karahman adds the app isn't quite there yet. The last 2 weeks were really stressful to us. The team is very tired. We are hoping to release the app today, and I know a lot of you have been looking forward to it. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate that. However, I've decided to delay the app until August. This is when the first trailer will also be revealed. Taking to Twitter, the official Blue Box Game Studios posted a video from one of its outsourcing studios, Enua. The video says, quote, "Recently Hasan asked us to film a short introduction video about an N-U-A-R-E, so I'm just going to say Noir, to explain about our role and how we are involved in the project. We are all real people with names that are working hard to bring you the best possible experience, so here we are. Let's jump in." Noir is a company of more than 70 gaming industry professionals working hard on different AAA titles as well as great companies, a part of which you can find on our website. And our goal as a company is to create the best possible art assets for our partners. If you head over to Noir's website, you can see the games they have done some art outsourcing for. Some of the titles include Marvel's Avengers, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, Death Stranding, Marvel Spider-Man, and Days Gone, just to name a
They also
few.
did stuff on Elder Scrolls. They've worked with 343 on Halo Infinite. They're a real studio that have done real
Yes.
work on a lot of stuff.
Yes, that is true. But
But they worked with Kojima
notice
that one
they
time.
didn't say they weren't working with Kojima. Notice how they said they weren't making Silent Hill. No, look. This is getting
I'm
fun.
so confused why instead of a trailer, they're building an application that will only run on the PlayStation to play its trailer.
I was chatting.
Is it because it's going to be interactive?
I was chatting to a friend of the show, Paul James, at Paul James Games on Twitter. He has a theory.
Okay.
I quite like his theory.
Okay.
His theory is
Bit upset he didn't tell me his theory, but sure. We'll cross that bridge later.
yeah. Well, I'll harass him later on that one. He essentially goes, "What if this becomes like their new way to deliver PSX? Like it's not in fact an app just for Abandoned. It becomes the PlayStation Experience app for the new way of delivery. So rather than having."
So rather than like going on like Twitch or YouTube or going to the PlayStation blog to watch their state of plays, we open our app and we can just have access to them. There's just a library.
You go in and like so rather than having like IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, whatever, all share the same trailer, just go here. So you go in, you go to the app, you see it, and potentially down the line, maybe the app can support demos. So PlayStation Experience, the thing about PlayStation Experience is you go and you have panels and you see cool things and you get to play demos. And well, we've never been in the US, but that's what I've been told. Like that's what it is. So why not in the virtual world where when there's a pandemic right now and we cannot have events like that just yet? Why not do this?
I think it's a cool idea. I don't think Sony would want it announced by Blue Box, who everyone currently thinks.
Yeah, because it's not Blue Box. That's the catch. Because it can be called Blue Box Studios, the app can be called that, which just to me just encapsulates PlayStation, like in the name of itself. So like, I don't know what the app's called. I haven't seen it because it's not on the store. So they could just come out and say, "Hey, the app is called Blue Box Studios," and you click on it, and then they update it with a firmware. give software update, and suddenly it's the fucking PS Experience app. Look, my argument to him was, at what point has Sony ever shown that they care enough to do this?
Yeah.
PlayStation Experience worked within the Sean Layden, Gio Corsi, Shuhei Yoshida era. Jim Ryan has not demonstrated any fucking care for the players, let alone the idea of PlayStation Experience.
Yeah.
I love the idea, Padge, but I think you're overreaching on what PlayStation would actually be willing to do. I love it from a if you look at it from a data perspective, if they can bring all the eyes to their app, then what will happen is most people will keep that app installed on their console because things could drop at any given time. Yeah. So if you want solid retention, you got it.
Yeah.
If you want direct numbers, complete numbers of how many people are watching your shit, you can get that. You can get that. It's heat mapping.
Yeah.
Right. It makes people will be shitty about it being the only place to see it, but like that is the future.
Yeah.
Like to me, even though whether this becomes the idea or not, having that one app that can control they can control all the messaging. Like yes, it's kind of gross for those media outlets, but whatever.
Yeah.
Blue Box Studios, PlayStation Experience. That's what it is.
QUICKBITS. Greedfall is getting a PlayStation 5 version next week with a free upgrade for all PlayStation 4 owners. Everyone owns it. It was a PlayStation Plus title.
So I'm saying, don't own it.
Yeah.
I remember buying it.
It was like 3 months ago. It was a PlayStation Plus title. This might get me back in. When I played it, it did not age well. So hopefully this, from my understanding, it is a 4K 60 upgrade. So that'll be nice. Greedfall is a big pirate RPG. Big old open world pirate RPG.
Oh man, I don't know if I heard on this one. Yeah. Shit, yeah. They just came out this around the same time as Kingdom Come.
The Marvel's Avengers bug of showing your IP address on screen when streaming has been fixed.
Yeah, just dox everyone. Shout out to fucking Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics. Yeah, well done.
Media Molecule is collaborating with Mercedes Benz on a Dreams project.
Sure.
And Final Fantasy IX is getting an animated TV show.
Is that Max News?
It's Page News.
It's Page News.
Could not care less about
Yeah,
Final Fantasy IX.
once again, Page, massive heart on Final Fantasy IX. I guarantee
It's cool.
he is just creaming.
It's cool. Animated TV show. From what I saw, they don't look like it doesn't look like it's going into production until late this year, early next year. So it's probably still ages away.
It's not ages away though. That Resident Evil, whatever the fuck, it's coming to Netflix. That's just like next week, week after. You get damp. All right, here are the. All right, here are the top 10 best-selling games on the PlayStation 4 in Australia, and they are as follows. Number 10, NBA 2K21. Number 9, the Ratchet and Clank 2016. Number 8, Spirit and fucking Horses or something. Number 7, Uncharted, the Nathan Drake Collection. Number 6, The Last of Us Remastered. Number 5, God of War. Number 4, Little Big Planet 3. Number 2, GT Sport. Apparently this is the fucking week of PlayStation hits. Number 2, Grand Theft Auto 5. And number 1, EA Sports FIFA 21.
I think they're all on sale at the moment.
That makes sense. Yeah, because there is a big
They're all
sale
like
at the moment.
$10 or something.
Yeah, makes sense.
Upcoming releases, the only one I could find was Everforward, coming to PlayStation 4 and 5 June 29th.
It's post E3 time.
Post
man.
E3, everyone.
No one's racing. Like I'm sure there's games coming. If you
There
pull up the
is
thing,
definitely games coming out.
like so, did you just VG 24/7?
I just VG 24/7.
We need to find another avenue because VG 24/7 has been really.
You know what used to be
inconsistent lately.
awesome? The Drop.
The Drop was great. The Drop was something, man. Like if they had the Drop and they just had like this one, but maybe I should make a blog that has the list of all the games that are coming. That'd be really, really cool. I don't know why they haven't thought about it or fucking done it since July of last year. Because as far as we know, the latest game to release on PlayStation is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
Yeah.
The fuck, Sony? Fuck Sid Schumann. What the fuck you doing?
My job used to be so much easier. I was like, and now it's just not.
We've got to find. There's got to be a way for us to
Yeah.
get this info. We've got to do it. I don't know how. Anyone have any suggestions? Let us know. It's a long show today, Max.
Yeah, well, considering the fact that we started late, we've kind of finished it around the same time we normally do. I
Yeah.
actually don't think it was a long show.
About an hour and a half.
We had like 3 news articles. The problem was one of them was a page and a half long because conspiracy theory.
Fucking good day. And then we also talked farmers and weebs. So like, it was expected that this would be a long show today.
Yeah.
But big thank you to everyone for joining us as always. If you do, I say as always, I don't fucking need. Maybe just rocked up for the first time. Maybe you've not rocked up at all for like last year. Thank you for just turning up. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show and or watch our dumb faces. We really appreciate it. Max.
Fuck you, Puck.
Thanks, Puck.
I think I have a feeling that their articles are for the previous week, not the week forward, which is why I haven't used them. But I could be wrong. I will check it out.
So his link does push Square in the thing. Doki Doki Literature Club is coming to PS5 on June 3rd. See, look, this is why Puck's a mod. Because he is literally doing our job in the chat for us.
Doing my job. That's that weird bloody interactive storybook.
Yeah. Bring it like real fucking dark.
Yeah, it goes full meta. Like it I played it on PC. It scans your user on your computer, so it knows your name. And then like you've got to go in and like delete files and stuff. It's weird. Unless I'm pretty sure it's that game.
Find out. Because I don't know how you're going to go and delete files on your PS5.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Maybe that's what the plus is at the end. You can just never get rid of it. It'll never uninstall. It's just forever a burden on the small hard drive space that you have. Limited hard drive space. All right, everyone. This PlayStation conversation happens every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on... Oh, no, hang on. Let me start that again.
Yeah, cool, guys.
Yep.
It's only been doing this 209 times.
This PlayStation conversation happens every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on podcast services, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you'd like to take part in future conversations with us, join in our shenanigans, and otherwise throw us off right when we're trying to wrap up the show, come and check out our socials. Facebook, Discord, Instagram, and Twitter. All those links can be found in the description below.
If you want to join us as the conversation happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopculture. We record on a Saturday at about 4 p.m. Australian time. Jump in the chat, become part of the show. Just do our job for us if you want. Puck's doing it. He's been doing it for years now. But yeah, so come over to Twitch, join the show. We love to have the interactivity in the chat. It's awesome. One of the big highlights of what we do. If you want to support the show as it has, so I've done that part. If you want to support the show, tell your friends, tell your family about this PlayStation pod. If you're on podcast service, give it a 5-star rating and a written review. Or if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I endeavor to answer every single comment. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopcultures, as well as our merchandise store, popculture.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. But until next week, I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And that was For the Players. I feel like we should add Puck to the end of that. It's like, I'm Ryan Betson, I'm Max Cooper, that's Puck in the chat, helping us.
We need to add a Patreon tier, just pay Puck.
Hi, you donate $3 a month so we can give Puck money because he's really good. All right, see you guys next week.